how should people deal with friends who constantly say that they want to commit suicide?
What do you call a therapist who therapizes another therapist? This is your daily Ketchup.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying the Daily Ketchup podcast, do remember to drop us a sub, hit that notification button, and also like this video. Like lah. Hey guys, we're very lucky to have a special guest with us here today. She's a psychologist, and it's none other than Dr. Geraldine. Dr. Geraldine, thank you so much for being here with us. Alright, so this episode was really meant to, I think the whole concept of mental health, even though it gets talked about a lot right now, there's still a lot of like misinformation, myths, and I think questions that we have about it. So I think we really just want to have this session where we could ask you a lot of questions that we kind of had about, you know, psychology, mental health, and so I'm just going to open the floor to anyone who has a really good and juicy question.
Very strange, that was so formal.
You may, please raise your hand.
Sorry, are you a psychologist or psychiatrist? What's the difference?
Very good question, right? A lot of people get confused. Psychiatrists and medical doctors, they give you the medication.
Right.
Psychologists don't have any injection, don't have any medication whatsoever.
Right.
I cannot ask you for stuff.
But do both do therapy?
They can do therapy if they're trained in it, but they prefer not to. It wastes time lah. It is more efficient that they give the medication. Yeah, so the patients will go there, get the medication, and then they would track all the chemical side of things.
So are there certain cases that you would recommend them to go to a psychologist and certain cases that you recommend a psychiatrist?
So for the therapy, right, so most of the time what we do would be an hour. So typically a session is an hour, 50 to 60 minutes lah. And the therapy would encompass all the talk, the art, the play, whatever it is lah.
Okay.
Yeah. But when
play.
it's
The play?
It's because there will be different techniques that will be used.
Yes.
Like
There
play?
Play therapy. Yes,
Okay,
there
we'll go into
is
that.
play therapy. But
Interesting.
you know, if let's say the patient is not receptive at all, they're too depressed, too anxious, suicidal, you know, and they cannot keep themselves safe anymore. That's when we would refer to the doctor.
Okay.
Right.
I have a question. How much do you charge? Hey, that's a weird
I was
one.
going to ask what your rates.
Yeah, I was going to ask how much do you charge an hour.
I feel like
That's
you're such
that's not right.
I feel like you're such a friendly psychologist.
Yeah.
I want to.
Wait, so friendly psychologist should be higher or lower?
Higher.
Right now I want to say lower because she's about to quote
What is the
something.
range, I would guess?
I say 100.
500 an hour.
I'll say 350. Hey, yeah.
What you're bidding, is it? No.
I say 180.
Depends whether.
It's not worth.
It also depends whether you're private or whether you're in a counselling centre.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So most of the time in the private setting is about 150 and above. Yeah. I don't know who charges 500.
I got
So
scammed.
I
No, I haven't.
Yes, yeah.
I haven't.
She
I'm sorry.
hypnotized you then after
Like,
you get
just-
scammed.
If my therapist is watching this, thank you so much.
Wait, but really a very common question is why is it so expensive?
Yeah.
So like besides like those like these options, right? Like
It's probably the
private
cost of
practice-
their education, I guess.
But is it, or is it like there's a very large demand but very little supply?
No, I don't think so. I it's a very good question. The people that command the higher rates are probably the more experienced ones. Not
Okay.
that we create a lot of magic. I hope I do, but I don't know whether I do or not. But yeah.
So what is the progression like for a psychiatrist? Like once you learn the basics already, then you start practicing. Then how do you upgrade?
So before you can be called a psychologist, you need a master's. So you have 4 years already, and then you have another
She's Dr. Geraldine.
3 years, and then your PhD and or your doctorate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably why it's so expensive lah. Right?
But during all this time, are you practicing at all? Like when studying for your masters and all this?
We can, but we probably are not licensed.
Oh.
so you cannot lie, actually.
You can, because in Singapore, we still don't have that licensing yet.
Right.
Yeah. So
That's why a secondary school PE teacher could also be a
Counselor.
So
yeah.
a counselor is
Yeah.
slightly different. So the counselor cannot do your diagnosis
Right.
So for the psychologist, we can do your diagnosis. So from the ADHD to the learning disorders, to the autism, to the depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, eating disorder. So we do all of that.
Yeah. So how did you get into this in the first place?
I don't know. I'm actually very boring. No lah. Actually, it's not accidental. So I think the younger generation would be very deliberate. Like, oh, I want to study psychology, but I knew I wanted to study psychology from secondary school.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So from Sec 2.
Wait, so are you saying you are younger generation?
Yeah, I was trying to stop myself from saying that.
Trying to
No.
She said the
I
younger
was like, John,
generation will
ignore
do this,
that.
and I did this.
So you were saying in secondary school?
Yeah, secondary school, and then after that it was just psychology all the way.
Wow.
Why though? Why did you want to do it?
Why? There's
It's some crime show,
No,
maybe.
it's not
Crime
I feel like that's how people start.
No, I don't know. But it is very intriguing, the whole behavior, why people do certain things, why people don't do certain things.
Actually, I'm curious, right? Like when people come to see you, do they ask you the same questions during the first visit? Like, is it always the same thing that they ask you on the first visit?
They actually don't ask the questions.
Oh,
They tell their issues, or they tell their concerns, so we listen. So it's always a myth that people always say psychologists talk a lot. We don't. We listen a lot. We
Right.
sit there and we listen to people.
How long have you? This is really not an age question, but how long have you been working as a psychologist already? No, it's important for my follow-up question.
20 plus years.
Okay, that's weird. That's crazy.
Wow.
No, I told you I've been doing this
You
my
look
entire
great.
life. oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Through the years, right, have you seen the reason why people come to you change, or is there a trend? Is there? I mean, not trend, but as in, is there a pattern? Yeah.
Yeah. So I started with the youths, right? So we do see a trend where before it was a lot of fighting, a lot of rioting, a lot of like going to the store and they petty theft.
Right.
Yeah. Now you have a lot more suicidal cases. There was an explosion, right, from last year to this year. So a lot of suicide cases, a lot of more stressed students, which is really sad. Yeah. And those that cannot cope with the whole emotional turmoil.
if I have a friend or like a family member who is suicidal, right? What would be your advice to me? Like, what should I do with them?
It's a good question.
I think the first thing that many of them would tell us is sit with them.
Okay.
Because they would ask the questions and whatever answer might not go in. So even if you answer or you tell them anything, it might be misconstrued. So we'd rather you not. But they would say, sit with them, be with them, and keep them safe.
How should people deal with friends who constantly say that they want to commit suicide?
These friends are very draining. That's why when you keep hearing it, you also feel very, very helpless.
Yeah.
What you do is you redirect them to someone that can help them. Yeah. If not, what we do for the young ones when they are in school and someone says that they want to die, we never have one person that is attached to the suicidal person. We have a group.
Okay.
So
Wow.
that you have, you're not fatigued afterwards.
Right.
Yeah, because if not, if it's just one person and the one person takes the load, what if the person actually does something?
Right.
There's
Then you
a
might feel
lot of
responsible.
guilt on that one person, and it's not fair.
No, I feel like because it's a profession built around mental health,
Yeah.
it feels like the standards of like the protocols of the entire profession is also like very mental health focused, which is quite amazing.
Serious note, right? Like pertaining to the question that I asked you just now, because I think like it was also something that I personally went through, and I struggled with cutting the friend off. Like what Dan said, like so the friend constantly wanted to like commit suicide and like had all these thoughts and I felt that it was affecting me very badly. But if I cut the person off,
What if they
I'm
do
this
something?
person's last like
Like lifeline or what?
in a sense. So But then, I mean, in the end, mine was a happy ending because I managed to sit the person down and talk to the person, explain why it was draining for me. And then so we stopped talking for 2-3 years. After that, then we got back in touch, and then I said, and then after that I said like, hey, like, thank you so much for like understanding what happened back then. And I think if you need someone now, I'm ready. Like, I feel better mentally. I can be here for you now. And then it was a very well-rounded conversation.
Such a hard chat to have though.
Yeah, but I'm not sure, like, so to people who are struggling with that, right, feeling that guilt and that burden, right, what should they do then?
Look after yourself, which you did, which was really, really good and very important. So that's one thing that we always remind everyone, like, please look after yourself first, because if you're already feeling drained, there's no way you can look after another person. So even the person come, and no matter how many times they come to you, you have nothing else to give already. Yeah, so you will end up either you die or I die sort of feeling, you know. So you don't want to get to that point where, okay, let's both of us jump lah. Anyway, I also cannot help you already, which sometimes they do come to us and they do say.
Wow.
So that's why we never have just one person helping. We have a team helping. Yeah, so it's always a group of friends. Maybe the religious group, you know, that helps them. Yeah. So they have more people rallying around them.
Why do you think it's so? Like, do you think the previous generation was built stronger, or do you think
They have
circumstances is
different
much harder
strengths.
today?
They have different strengths, but in all fairness, these 2 years have been very tough for everyone lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the studying methods, the lack of friends, or rather lack of contact, human contact, like how we are sitting here, right, really has taken a toll on them.
It's funny that you mentioned like whether about generations, because like the statistics that came out recently about like suicides last year, right, was that even though suicides in general have increased, the number of suicides amongst old people has actually increased for it's the highest number since
older
1991.
people, shit.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
What's older people, like
above
60?
60.
Oh, damn.
It's very, very sad. So recently we did, my friend reached out and we did like the geriatric depression scale for those seniors.
What's a
what is
geriatric
that?
depression?
Geriatric, right?
Geriatric, yeah.
Older people, old people
Yeah,
basically.
okay.
Because he recognized that the depression rates have also increased, the suicide rates have also increased. Yeah.
Right.
From what?
Like what the reasons why?
Okay, so a variety of reasons. One, they have been staying at home, so the mental deterioration, if they're not engaged with anything intellectual, then the deterioration is very, very fast. Yeah, they can't sit at the kopitiam and meet their friends, you know, so it's really sad. I had one 70-plus-year-old man last year. The doctor was like very desperate, say, Jerry, can you just come in, can this senior come and see you, because he's very suicidal. I was like, why? So he couldn't sit with his friends to drink his coffee and chat with them. His basketball, so every day he would go and, you know, play basketball.
Wow, what a fit
Yeah.
senior.
Yeah, he was really, really
What are we
fit.
doing?
Yeah.
But you know, during this whole entire period, the basketball court was just like, you know, closed. And it wasn't just closed, it was really all blocked. He stand there, he looked at it and say, what am I living life for? So most of them who have retired already expect to go traveling, expect to go, you know, meet up with their friends,
Yeah.
but they don't have the opportunity to do that during
Right.
this period of time. So it's like they're being robbed of everything.
Yeah.
I had another weird thought, you know, last year during CB. It's a very, very strange, weird thought that if you didn't save enough for your retirement, right, let's say you're at like 60s, 70s, right, and you only have a few dollars to work with every month. In the past, when you could go out, right, you could go to your friend's house, you could share food with your friend, you could go and steal your friend's fries, for example, right, and just like hang out and eat other people's food, which is something that we don't really think about, because I believe that there's a segment of society that kind of relies on that for food lah, right? And once everything is all indoor and you order your food, right, you have to transact. Yeah, and I was just thinking about this weird thought that kind of that for example it helps people realize how desperate they are now. Like, you know, like really that's how you want to kill yourself, I feel.
That's a very sad thought.
Oh, this might be sensitive.
Go ahead.
Do you also see a psychologist? Because you carry all these burdens, right? And weight.
I love this question. Yes. So we always advocate like people coming to see psychologists. So of course we see a psychologist ourselves.
Okay.
And I really love it because one of the teens, I get asked this by teens all the time. So when I told one of the teenagers, right, and he said, he paused for a while, then I was like, oh, what happened? Yeah. And he went, oh, my psychologist has a grand psychologist. And I said, of course.
Grandmaster.
Has a grand psychologist, and the grand psychologist has a great grand psychologist.
Because so who's the master psychologist of them all?
It probably goes in a circle lah.
Probably not enough. It's like priests do confession to each other.
Yeah lor.
Actually, everybody
So
know,
it's not a
everybody did.
pyramid.
So you also provide therapy to other psychologists lah?
We do.
Right.
Yeah, but Singapore is really, really small. So we actually sometimes, like for myself, it will be overseas, someone from overseas.
Right.
Oh.
No, so is it not weird that you already know all the techniques and tricks?
Yeah lor.
Then how does it?
Not actually, because we all have blind spots. There are parts that are very tough to work through. You know, so we still need someone to work through.
Like what?
iron
Can you
out.
share a personal thing?
Sure. I mean, like one of the things would be, I lost my first baby. So it's like, yeah. And it still gets to me, right? But I can work with many mothers who have lost their baby because I have worked through that, and very, very grateful for the therapists that work through with me. Yeah.
Right. So it was the therapist using a technique that you do not know? Or
No, I know, but it doesn't mean that.
How come you cannot just therapize yourself? Therapize.
I feel like I actually had this conversation with a friend.
Right.
So, because I have a lot of friends that my entire cell group
Hey,
studies.
a lot of friends.
Wow, I'm jealous.
My entire cell group studies psych and social work.
Right.
So I was having this conversation with one of them, and she was talking about how she had recently started seeing a psychologist herself also. And I said, but you learn this stuff in school, right? Like do you like kind of
Cannot.
identify it with yourself?
Cannot.
Then she
Right.
said, I need someone to say it to me. She said, I need someone to say it so that it feels real to me. I can digest it, and then they can help me to also work through the steps instead of just you feel like you're alone in the battle.
Right. So why is that?
What's
Like
what?
why is it? Why is it that you have to hear it from somebody else?
So for her friend, she needed to hear it from someone. But emotions are real, you see. Emotions, we cannot run away from emotions. We are human beings first before we are psychologists. So
Right.
our emotions can also overwhelm us. So why I needed was also because after the first pregnancy, the second pregnancy was fraught with a lot of anxiety.
Okay.
It was like, oh my gosh, okay, there's a spotting. Let's run to the doctor. Let's run to the gynae. Oh my gosh, check. And it was just crazy. And the doctors was asking, do you want to stay at home? Do you want to lie down? So I tried for 2 days. I said, thank you. No, I think I want to go to work. Because I would be sitting there swimming with my thoughts, swimming with my anxieties.
Your voice is so soothing, by the way.
That's why she's like,
Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess like what a lot of people don't realize is that even though you're a psychologist and you know the techniques, you're not immune to mental health
No.
issues as well. lah.
sorry, I have a question on what you mentioned
I
just
have
now.
so many
right?
questions there.
Yeah.
But let me know when it's my turn.
okay. We queue up and go in 1 second.
Yeah.
Hey, we're at Denise.
So, like just now you mentioned that you wanted to go to work so that you are not sitting at home alone with your thoughts, right? But is that not just distracting yourself rather than processing your emotions?
Ooh.
Very good question.
Thank you.
But different people.
Are you schooling the psychologist in psychology?
Just showing off your psych knowledge.
Young people these days read
deal
one
with it
book.
differently. They deal with their emotions differently. So whilst one person, it would be running away from it, for me, it was working through it.
Yeah.
What caught on to me was when you said you went to a psychologist, for example, to work through something. What is working through something? Is there a desired state of being that we are trying to get there? How do we know when we are there? Because I feel like hurtful events will always hurt. How do I know that it doesn't hurt anymore.
So when you are stumbling over, you're falling over, the pain is just too much, you know. So that's one indication that you need to seek help. Yeah, because typically our first line, especially in Asian culture, our first line is not to run to the psychologist, is to run to our family members, is to run to the friends. But what happens when people cannot comprehend that whole situation, or they are trying to soothe you, but they are telling you things like, "Oh, it's okay lah, don't worry about it. Oh, don't worry about it. Doesn't help." You feel even worse, right?
Yeah.
So
I feel like say that to Diana once a day. Yeah.
No, people tell me that I just say, "Oh, okay."
yeah, what else is there to say, right? But when you sit in a space that you are permitted to talk, where you are, a lot of people say non-judgmental, but we try to be, right? But we are only human beings. But what is the space that we give you is that you are heard. And then we ask the questions, which will set you thinking.
Like what?
Depends on the
I'm just trying to get some free session in.
So what's your issue?
I really have never been, to be honest. Like, so I really don't know what it's like. And if like you say there's a lot of listening, my wife's a great listener. So and so I mean I've been through parts of my life where it hurts for me, and then it hurts for like a month or two whenever I think about it, and then slowly it just doesn't anymore. Lor. So it's just, should I have gone to a therapist?
So the other thing that I love to encourage people is don't just go when it is painful. Go when it's not painful. So it's like you going to the dentist, you go twice a year, right? Or I hope people go twice a year. I can
Very
hear
recently, as of 2 years ago, I go twice a year.
I didn't go for 7 years and then I went 2 months ago.
But that's what I would like people to try and do. Like, okay, 7 years, but now you're going, and don't wait until you have a tooth decay.
Yeah.
You have, a toothache before you go and see the dentist to sort it out. Yeah.
But I think on that note, right, a lot of people's concern is with the cost, like we mentioned earlier. So I've also read this Reddit thread where this guy was sharing his experience with therapy, and he said at one point he realized how lucky he was, right, that he had parents who could afford therapy for him. And then he thought like if he didn't have that, right, probably would have killed himself a long time ago.
So there's not only the private sector, which I'm in, there's also the public sector. Yeah, so your family service centers, your IMH, the different hospitals have it. There are many channels. So one of the channels, like for the youths, would be chat at skate park. As not skate park, but skate. Yeah, right at the top there, where they have free counselling for the youths. Yeah.
I told you this and you said also.
Yeah. No, I remember it abbreviating to something very clever, but I can't remember what it was.
I mean, since this whole episode is about mental health in general and trying to understand it more, I wanted to know like what are the most common like issues that the younger generation has now in terms of mental.
And what are some approach you think they can take?
Academic stress, relational stress. So the academic work, I don't know why this generation is such a perfectionist generation. Everything they must do to the T, and they must meet everybody's expectations. So it's very, very worrying. That brings on a lot of like heavy load on their shoulders. And then they go, oh, I cannot do this anymore. What's life, Then they have all the existential questions like, why am I born? Why am I living? What are we living for? Yeah. Relationship with the parents. So that one transcends many generations. Yeah. So
what can you do for them though? I mean, respectfully asking.
Working through some of their methods, how they approach their work, how they to walk and journey with them through the existential questions, because honestly many of these questions have no answers.
Yeah, Lord, then how?
Eventually we all die, right?
But like coping with triggers.
Every day we inch closer to death. That's the answer.
From the therapist, then like what
I actually have a friend that also practicing already, and then after that decided to stop because she said she realized that like all these things that people come to her with, right, there's no solution. Then she got very pressured herself. And
I would think so though, because like for example, if a kid comes to you and the source of stress, I mean it could be academic stuff, right? But it's also about expectations, and you can't fix other people's expectations.
No.
So neither are you the most assuring person when you tell them it doesn't have to be perfect. Cause I'm not stressed out by you. I'm stressed out by my parents. So I need my parents to tell me I don't need to be perfect. You telling me doesn't help me, and so like every night you go to bed thinking all these things.
No, but maybe it's that, right? Maybe, I mean, again, you're the expert, but like maybe it's not that they're perfectionists, but they have a strained relationship with their parents, and they're trying to like. So it's about working through that relationship with the parents.
Yeah. So sometimes it's not just working with the teen, but we work as a family.
Right.
So the entire family comes in, and rightly put, right, there is a communication issue. There are expectations that are weighing on you.
Jumbo, how will you feel one day, right? Your son comes back.
Then you say, I'm not your father.
He informs you that he has a strained relationship with you, to which you were just being yourself, right? Then he says that he set an appointment for you to go counselling with him.
I'll go with him more. I support him more. Like, because I also want to find out why, ma. Yeah, and if to him that's the safest space for him to talk about this, right? Then we go to where he feels it's safe to talk about it lah.
No, because I would think, for example, right, if let's say I put undue expectation on my child, right, then I'm like, do better lah, right? And no, I'm just imagining I have no child. It's completely hypothetical, right? That let's say my kid, because my parents, right, expectation of me was not to get all A, but I was barely passing in my secondary school. Right, and so
that's why their expectation is not to get all A.
Correct. No,
and your sisters were smart.
So which means my sisters were above average. Like even academically, they were not like above the 2.5 range, for example, for PSLE, right?
Better than you, did better than you lah.
If at this point which I feel the stress coming from my parents, right? If I go back to them one day and say, I spoke to a therapist and she would like all of us to go for a session together, right? I think my dad will snap at me, he's like, dude, I'm just asking you to pass. You know, you go to a psychologist now, the whole family need to go for therapy. Does that happen in real life?
Yeah, it's so uncomfortable. Like just now, the moment you mentioned like bring the family for therapy, right, I felt super uncomfortable.
It felt necessary, I agree.
Yeah, but right, I think the difference here and why my answer was so different, right, is because I think it's a generational thing. So our parents' generation, right, I think they never grew up with mental health as a priority or even were educated about it, whereas we are. So assuming we are
we though?
And then assuming enough, at least we understand the importance of it. Right. And then after that, with the following generations, they will probably be even more woke with regards to this topic, right? Then I think that's why the solution can work better.
I think there's that misunderstanding, you know, by the different generation, or even when people come to us, whatever generation it is, right? That you go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist because you're crazy. So no one wants to be associated with us, which is very sad. Or they think that when we ask them to come, we are trying to put the blame on them, which is not true.
Yeah,
We're not trying to put the blame on them, but we are trying to find out what the reasons might be so that your life is better and smoother. Not my life, but your life, right? Yeah, so there's this misunderstanding there.
When you want to call the family down for counselling, right, do you call them directly or do you advise the child on how to tell the parents?
We would encourage them to bring them down because that's the start of the communication already.
So
Then
weird
we can
if
see-
like your parents suddenly got a phone call and be like, hi, I'm
It's
a
like the
psychologist.
principal call you.
Okay, I can see that lah. But it's so strange. Like imagine you have to tell your parents,
Yeah.
I don't know how to say this. Follow me on like Thursday, and then we're going to this thing.
But usually the parents already know that they are coming for therapy.
Okay.
So so in the private practice, if you're below 18, your parents need to approve and sign.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are there parents that are like, no, I don't want my child to go for this like therapy or what?
There are.
Why?
For a variety of reasons, I suppose. You waste money, you're not crazy, it would leave a mark on the record, how you're going to get your jobs next time.
Does it though?
Yeah.
No, I mean, with the changing climate of mental health, right? No, there's no there should not be a repercussion on your work. But there are still people that are worried, especially if they want certain types of work, they might not want it on their record.
So yes lah, there's a record.
Daniel is like
Because it started with no, I got confused.
Yeah.
it would be with the public health system, right? Everything goes into your record. Who you see, what kind of tests you take, your blood works, everything is in there. So if you check your Sing Pass and your Health Hub, you probably have everything there.
Right.
So I'm also curious, is it like if your parents have like depression or whatever, right, are you also most likely gonna kena?
You would be more susceptible to it. Yes, more vulnerable to it.
Is it because of a biological reason or because I'm born into the environment already?
Genetically, there could be a predisposition. A genetic predisposition.
But our generation wouldn't know because the generation before us
Or never diagnosed?
never knew.
Yeah.
They just thought life very hard lor.
But so on that note, right, like there's been such a, like it currently feels like everyone has anxiety, everyone has some form of depression. Like, is it really, or is it people just read on the internet, I very sad, I'm depressed?
So a lot of people love to Google and self-diagnose.
Yeah.
So we know when somebody go onto the internet, because whatever that they say, you go like, it sounds very familiar, the language. And you go like,
I wrote it.
no. You went through a checklist, right? And they would typically say, yes, they went through a checklist. Yeah.
So what are the signs where I'm really just feeling sad, like today I really don't feel as motivated, versus I need to go and seek help?
There should be a prolonged period of time that you experience it, and you find it very hard to do your daily tasks. Or it's very
But what if your daily
severe.
tasks are very hard?
Like,
no, I'm asking
you're just
for
not
myself
capable,
here.
is it? Like, how do you know you're just not capable?
Yeah. Or you are just taking on more than you can handle.
So either way, it's a red flag one. Then either way, you should be doing something about it, right?
You could speak to someone who can then identify that maybe this is not the right job for you lah.
Me? A bit late, right?
What do you mean? You can always change jobs lah.
No lah, how? Like no lah.
Oh my god, is
No,
this...
no,
I'm
as
way
in-
past that. Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about...
No, I'm asking for...
You're thinking about yourself.
Yeah. Because I do feel anxious most of the time. And I've never had a panic attack. I don't know what that feels like, so...
So maybe I can answer it this way. Not everybody needs a diagnosis of depression or anxiety, but you can sit with a psychologist to work through some of the challenges that you're facing or struggles that you're facing.
I was also quite skeptical of therapy until I went for it. And I think what ended up being the case a lot of the time, even though it sounds like you can do it yourself, is that I actually am finding the solutions myself. I actually end up saying it myself, but I needed to have said it out. And even though I have said it out to other people before, it's just, it's leading questions like you just did with John. Or it's like very little things that help you get to where you are. Like, obviously, there's other techniques also, like hypnotherapy and like other frameworks to like cope with.
I heard you do hypnotherapy.
Yes.
She also does this really interesting thing, which I don't know what it is, but I read from the website, called sand therapy.
Sand play therapy.
Sand play.
Oh, that's where the play comes in.
Wait, is it the kinetic one that I see at like shopping mall?
No,
Oh,
it's
okay.
actual sand.
Like your fingers like a sensorial experience.
So where they place the little figurines or what they place there and what they tell us, or if they hide in the sand.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Wait, you are at the beach or you are at your office?
Yeah,
I'm
what?
confused.
It's like a little play
It's a
box lah.
it's a sand tray about this big, and it's filled with sand in the room itself.
Right.
And so what they leave behind can tell you about what they're thinking.
Yeah, so they would
Feels like a
place.
Facebook quiz.
Is there like an
TikTok
example
trend.
of like how you
Yeah.
analyze maybe one example?
Okay, so sometimes, so one of the very classic one is sometimes a kid comes in, and then you tell them to just free play, and they start taking little characters, and suddenly one character
Or they're
is
characters
hidden.
like toys inside.
They're figurines, so
okay,
we
okay.
have shelves of figurines and toys and
Right,
superheroes and whatever, trees and everything, vehicles. So it might take one and then hide it under the sand. So it could represent that he's trying, depending on the story, trying to keep himself safe. It could be trying to bury someone.
Wow. Bury someone as in the memory of it, or they want to kill the person.
To hide the person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to hide the person.
Hey, why are you so
No,
sinister?
because I
on
just
your
watched
thoughts?
the hole in the ground, so then
Oh my god.
my thoughts went straight there.
So interesting.
Wait, so if somebody comes to you, right, and during a session they confess to like a crime,
Ooh.
right? Like maybe like way back in the day, they like.
Oh no,
sexually assaulted
maybe not.
somebody.
Way not. Way
Or
back.
like-
Maybe last year.
Okay, like I abused my ex-girlfriend. I really beat the shit out of her. Yeah. Then how?
We're not bounded legally to do anything.
So that means you don't need to do anything, lah. Or you cannot do anything.
Not that I cannot.
Oh, okay.
Just there's no need for.
So
me
it's the
to do
opposite from
anything.
like lawyers where they can't say anything to.
So it depends on why the person
Good save.
comes to us, right? So
Yeah.
if you abuse and then you're planning to abuse, now you put somebody in harm. So there's a few things. If you're going to cause harm to someone, you're going to cause harm to yourself. You're going to kill someone, you're going to kill yourself. We will breach confidentiality.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But if someone comes and say, I abused my girlfriend last year, I feel very guilty about it, then we work through the guilt.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
What if someone come to you and say, I killed someone last month?
Then we will ask, how do you kill? And we will ask, why are you here for therapy?
I thought you said, can I go toilet first? Then you talk. Scary.
You press record.
What's like a more like rare case
That was
that,
unnecessary.
as in of like something that you work on? For example, I imagine that like I don't know anyone who's schizophrenic, for example, or like is there something that maybe we've not heard of? There's a condition that you've actually worked on.
Dissociative
DID.
DID, yeah, disorder,
What's that?
identity disorder. Disassociative
Identity disorder, right.
Yeah. So I had someone that had a few different personalities. So it was quite interesting to see which one came and see me.
Oh, split ah.
Oh, yeah.
Split ah.
Like
It's like-
split.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
like split.
Split say split lah. Dida don't know
She
what
could have said the real
order.
term.
Okay. So wait, so you said
So
you don't know who will come and
I don't know. So there were predominantly 3. I don't know if there are more, but I've only identified 3. One was a very dominant personality, another one a very soft and quiet personality, and the other one was her actual personality.
Do they have 3 different names or just
Yes,
personas?
they have
Wait, how you know which one's the
so very
actual?
clear lah,
Who's in
actually.
the spotlight? Sorry.
How do you know if they are not possessed, for example?
Do you believe?
Yeah, do you believe in ghosts?
I believe in ghosts. I believe in fairies. I believe in
Oh.
yeah.
They went too far.
The fairies
why
thing
you
gonna affect
judging
your
her beliefs?
reputation.
Possession is slightly different lah.
Oh.
So
But what if someone comes to you thinking that it's a mental health issue, but they're actually possessed?
there is so.
It's like a reverse
Why
twist.
you suddenly?
I possess.
No, because usually people go to a medium thinking that they are possessed, and then the medium
It turns out
refer
that
them to
they-
a psychiatrist,
yeah, right.
right?
Oh, so sometimes we see a pattern, like certain religions or certain cultures from, especially those overseas who are who have very very big certain rituals rather.
Thailand.
Yeah, certain. I don't
She's
know
trying not to
whether-
rat anybody out.
certain rituals,
Right.
and then you realize that during that festival or during that ritual, that period of time, suddenly they behave differently, and then so it's very consistent. So you realize, maybe it's not a mental health issue. It's not like they are schizophrenic or having a hallucination, but they are possessed.
Okay.
Wow, how does
Yeah.
a medical professional
Diagnose
Yeah,
them.
be like,
It's very
So
difficult.
you're possessed.
yeah, lah. Be like, I don't know how. There's no good way to say it, bro.
So you have, is it part of your, like, is a module in your studies?
Huh?
Possession.
Like, yeah.
Possession?
Is it a topic? Yeah.
I don't think so.
Cultural psychology.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It's academics.
So so those I can see is a gift and a curse because they
Yeah.
really don't want to see it. Yeah, those that have hallucination or are schizophrenic, don't want that disorder, to be onto them. Yeah,
Right.
it's very very frustrating.
Okay.
Right.
On a more
Interesting
personal
conversation.
level, right? Have you ever wanted to quit your job?
No lah. So that's one thing that I love to impart to the younger ones, which is that you need to enjoy your job. You really need to be excited about your job. It's a new discovery every day. There are times where we might finish a day, and then I always share this with the young ones. There was one day everyone was breaking down in front of me very, very early on.
It's like group counselling, is it?
No,
Everyone
so
who came
every
in.
hour
Oh.
from the morning, everyone was breaking down. After that, I sat down and then tears were rolling down my eyes, and I was like, but I don't know what I'm feeling. I really don't know what I'm feeling. Yeah, so it gets very trying for many of us. And one of my young psychologists also had that experience recently, last week only. Yeah, it is very trying, but you need to go in every day being excited to find out the next person's journey and to journey with them, because it is a privilege. Yeah, just like it's a privilege for you to share earlier.
Do you let your clients like reach out to you over like text or WhatsApp if like they're really struggling and things like that?
So we also need to preserve our mental health. So
Yeah.
we try not to. So we try to keep it within the session itself. But there are times where we need to be contacted. So yes, there are emails. There's always the text there, the business text actually. Yeah.
What are the
Yeah.
working hours like for psychologists?
You wanna jump you?
It depends. So for mine would be the daytime hours,
Right.
right? So it's my timing would be about 8 to about 5.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But sometimes it stretches.
Wait, I got one more question. do you become friends with your clients?
No,
Ooh,
no.
that
we
sounds
don't.
horrible.
Okay.
No, but
It's a rule lah.
that question is an ethical question.
Okay.
Yeah, so a very valid question, right? Because we get asked, oh, can you go coffee with me? Or sometimes we should catch up over drinks. And it's a firm no. And if let's say they're trying to get fresh with us, or we know that they have like crush on us, we refer them to another
one.
Right.
another
Wow.
colleague.
Yeah, because
Okay,
I would
okay.
imagine that crush thing is quite interesting and frequent.
Yeah, so can it also happen the other way around?
Calm down.
Because you look at
Asking about her rate.
You're so vulnerable and so honest with the person.
yeah, because
You're opening up.
you bear everything with that person and
Yeah.
you don't feel rejected.
Your question is not wrong. I mean, there have been other, so that's why there are ethical boundaries, and we have a module on ethics.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you get embroiled in a relationship with your client, it can get quite sticky, especially that.
Childish!
I'm surprised I'm the one that laughed and not JP. So
This is mature table.
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Come on.
No,
dear.
it's not about the table. This is the chair. The chair of immaturity.
So you're saying sticky?
Now you cannot unsee, but there have been cases where then the patient or the client will sue the therapist.
oh shit.
Yeah. So there have been cases where they sue them for rape. They sue them for different things. Yeah.
Okay lah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, because they can say that, oh, you made
Manipulate.
use of me when I
Right.
was vulnerable, because we don't know
Right.
what state they are in,
Yeah.
and we
Right.
are going. They are going through therapy. We are working with them, and doing therapy for them.
For example, yourself as a married person, right? Do you have any advice for other married couples, for example, for conflict resolution, or with the young people these days, right? Is there a common advice or recurring advice or the recurring question that you ask them that helps them see things a bit differently?
Conflict resolution. It boils down to just one word: communicate. Please talk. The worst thing is when, and I get that a lot from the husbands that come in for sessions. If I say anything, it will just get me into more trouble, so I just shut up.
Right.
And then that gets them into more trouble
Right.
many years down the road.
It also seems like advice that men give other men, which is why men tend to do that.
Can
No,
you
no, I
tell,
thought,
like,
like-
during the session, right, who is more willing to work on the relationship?
Usually would be the woman that is more willing to work on the
Is
relationship.
there a reason?
They okay, if we talk about trends, right? Are we opening another topic here? But if we talk about trends, right, then if the woman comes in and they are the ones that suggest, they would want to make the relationship work. But when you chat with them and you realize, hey, they don't want to make it work, the next question I might ask is, do you have someone else? Yeah.
Then it gets juicy.
I can imagine though, like sometimes if you're unfaithful, you might think as a plausible solution, let's go to a psychiatrist and see whether I can unfaithful myself.
Well, is that one of the most common problems that couples go to therapy for?
Parenting issues are another issue. So
Parenting is the most common.
Parenting has
her lah.
infidelity is another area that is also, top two lah. Parenting and
Sorry,
infidelity.
bouncing on the part where you talk about shutting down, right? Would you then say that most of the time, of course we can't always say 100%, right? Most of the time, couples that suggest let's take a break is never a good idea? Because it seems to be rather common.
I have no idea what a break is. Every time I would tell them that I have no idea what a break is, but they always think that they just need a breather from each other. But the breather always then would mean I go and find someone else.
Okay. To wrap things up, I wanted to it was a question based on two things that you mentioned. So I think you repeated today that it really shouldn't be an urgent need, you should go regularly. So if it's someone who there's no urgent need to go, but they should just do it as a regular practice, what is a recommended cadence?
So I would always say about 6 months.
Once every 6 months.
Just a check-in.
I see.
So it really is like going to the dentist.
Yes.
I was imagining weekly for some reason.
No,
So I thought
weekly is when they have a clinical issue.
Right,
so it's
right.
every 6 months you come in, you sit down, you have a chat. Is everything okay? What's working for you? What's not working for you? And then, at the end, maybe mid-year, depending whenever that the 6 months is.
Since I've been I always leave the psychologist room always feeling better than I did.
Lighter, right?
Always
it's almost
lighter,
physical, yeah.
have you been?
Yeah.
Ah, interesting. Have you been?
Yeah, horrible though, that person. I didn't feel understood at all. I felt horrible after that.
No, yes,
Right.
yeah, because I
That's
also
why I
had
stopped
experience.
going.
I had multiple psychologists, to
find the right fit.
therapize with. Then got some really cannot one, really cannot.
Pathological
I
one.
go already, I feel even worse after that. They don't understand me at all. Then why they telling me stupid solutions and shit like that? Then I'm feel
Or is it
horrible.
you are just being cynical?
No, because I have my first one was very good, crazy good. Then after that,
Why
then
didn't you just go back then?
she quit.
Because you had a crush on her, is it?
How about we wrap up the episode?
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. So before we end the episode, we wanted to say a big thank you to Dr. Geraldine for joining us today. And also, the main purpose of this episode was that we really wanted to talk about mental health. Even though a lot of people talk about it right now, it's still not talked about enough. So we really wanted to normalize that conversation. Also, if you have any questions, put that down in the comments box, comment section down
no
below.
box anymore.
And maybe Dr. Geraldine will come and join us again to answer some of those questions.
Or not, don't feel obligated.
I didn't even ask her permission for that. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Like and sub this video. Bye bye.